people? LP2000 right back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back once again to Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. Oh my God. It's been a minute since we had last seen each other, you know what I mean? I missed y'all. I really have, you know what I mean? Had a lot going on the past month and some change. My birthday, my wife's birthday, our wedding anniversary. Had a lot going on, you know? The last review I did was what? The X Plus 91 Godzilla Shinjuku Landing Sakai Standard Edition. So much stuff to be naming, obviously. Yeah, that's the last review I did. I think I did that like the first week of September. Here it is, almost Halloween, a month and some change later. And I'm back with the gigantic vengeance, pun intended. Obviously today, I'm doing the X Plus Gigantic Series Standard Edition of Shin Godzilla from the popular, awesome film, brilliantly done film, Shin Godzilla, as it's known here in the States, Godzilla Resurgence. I don't really call that film by that name. I mean, of course, it's the name of the film, Americanized or whatever, but I prefer Shin Godzilla. I think Shin Godzilla is a better title. It's a more apt title. It's a more appropriate title. So for the rest of the review, that's what I will call the film, Shin Godzilla. Nothing against Godzilla Resurgence. I think Shin Godzilla is a more powerful and appropriate title of the film. You know what I mean? And you're probably wondering why do I have the box here, because normally I have the figure displayed along with the box. But obviously this figure is gigantic. Seriously, like this thing is really big. And this box is even bigger. You know what I mean? I couldn't put the two in the same frame. So I figured I'd get the box out the way because we want to see the figure, right? You want to see the figure. Trust me, you'll see in a few seconds. But I want to get the box out the way because this is an enormous box. And it's, quite frankly, it's the biggest box that X Plus has ever done. At least from my personal perspective, this is the biggest box for an X Plus figure that I have ever acquired. And rightfully so, considering how big the figure is once you see it in a few seconds. But picture of Godzilla right here, Shin Godzilla, you know, the title of the film, or the title of the design, obviously, Shin Godzilla, or Godzilla 2016 Gigantic Series X Plus, with your legal jargon on the back, and that's pretty much it with the box, you know what I mean? Yes, I'm digging the box. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna keep this box. I keep it for furniture purposes, obviously. Sometimes I'll stack my display cases on top of it, because this really is a good box to keep, you know? I know a lot of collectors out there are getting to the point where they accumulate a lot of figures and they don't want to keep the boxes, you know? The standards, or at least, excuse me, the 30 centimeters and then 25 centimeter boxes, I can understand getting rid of those. Obviously. But for the Gigantic Series boxes, I tend to keep them. Because think about it. Like I said, they could be used for furniture purposes. They could be used for platforms. And also, if you do have a lot of boxes, a lot of figures, you can break down those boxes and just put them in the Gigantic Series boxes if you want to keep the box, you know. I know a lot of folks like to trash them, you know. I'm one of those figures collectors that I like to keep most of my boxes. I don't have every single one of them, but I do like to keep most of them. And for those I don't want, I just trash them. And for those I do keep, either I don't display them, or either I display them, excuse me, or I just put them in a big box like this, you know. But yes, that's pretty much it with the box, you know what I mean? So, yeah, let's get to why y'all here in the first place. Let's get a good look at the newest addition to the X Plus Gigantic Series, Shin Godzilla. You're going to love it. All right, let's go. Okay, folks, here he is in all his monstrous glory. Yes, the X Plus Gigantic Series Shin Godzilla Standard Edition. Woo! Oh, man. It speaks for itself, you know what I mean? A beautiful monstrosity. Oh, my God. Yes, let's go into the backstory before we get up close and personal with this guy. The backstory about this figure is not really like an elongated one. It's not really a deep one, you know what I mean? The first time we ever saw pictures of this figure, or at least a sculpt of it, was, I think, at the Winter Wonder Festival in Japan around February. They shocked the world when they announced that they were going to bring forth the Gigantic Series version of Shin Godzilla about a month after they brought the 25 centimeter version of Shin Godzilla, you know, and obviously to capitalize on how great the film did last year, you know, It's a very polarizing film, but it did a lot of great things for the hobby. Whether you like the film or whether you hate the film, it has done a lot of great things. You know what I mean? And of course, to capitalize on its success and the buzz around it, there have been so many different toy companies that have brought so many different figures or kits based off this design, you know, from Sega, Presto, Bandai, model kits like TS Facto, whatever. And X Plus has obviously jumped on the party train with that, you know. Like I mentioned, they brought forth the 25 centimeter version of this design, you know. They done a Defo Real line where it's like a short miniature version, but also more realistic. Of the Shin Godzilla of his fourth form, as well as his second and his third forms or whatever. Yes, they have really done a great job with producing a lot of Shin Godzilla figures, you know, S Plus wise. But we saw a big sculpt of this at the Winter Wonder Festival show and in February, and they announced that they were going to bring forth this version of Shin Godzilla in a gigantic series form. You know, the fourth form. At that point, we thought that maybe the 1989 was going to be the next gigantic series figure, but obviously, like I said, to capitalize on the success of the film, it was really smart to strike while the iron is hot, because, you know, even though Shin Godzilla is a great film and a lot of people are still talking about it and loving it to this day, had they come forth later on, you know, after the buzz has died down, because eventually the buzz will die down for Shin Godzilla, I think. Maybe, especially with the new Legendary film that may come out and other Godzilla films that may come out, you know, whatever, that may take the heat off of Shin Godzilla. So I don't blame them for striking, like I said, while the iron is hot, to bring forth this figure while the buzz and interest is still there. You know what I mean? And this came up for pre-order, I think, middle of the summer. Both standard and Rick's. The Rick Boy came. At least the Rick Boy version of this figure is basically the same sculpt as this version of Shin Godzilla. You know what I mean? They basically recycled the same Rick Boy option that they put with the 25 centimeter fourth form of Shin. You know what I mean? Where it's purple in certain parts of his body. I think it will come with an alternate head where his head is roaring. I can't stand that look of Shin Godzilla. You know what I mean? That's why I opted to get the standard. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I just don't like that look. I don't like when the purple paint scheme don't bother me, but I don't like when his lower jaw just separate. And sometimes I'm afraid that, especially after I watch the movie a lot, I'm afraid the jaw may split to the point where it just falls off his body. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to get the standard. You know what I mean? I just don't like that version of Shin Godzilla as far as the Rick. Now, if you getting the Rick, then hey, by all means, you're getting a great figure here. And when this figure came up for pre-order, I believe both standard and Rick, especially if you ordered from Hobby Search and the Rick Boy site for the Rick, I think both of these sold out, or at least capped out pre-orders within the same day. You know, but don't worry. They decided to bring out an extra batch. So if you were able to get your hands on a pre-order after the first pre-order sold out, then your gigantic series Shin will be coming probably in November, from what I understand. I understand that the Rick Boys were supposed to be coming out in October, but I understand that they got pushed back. Hopefully that doesn't affect the second batch of standards that are coming out, because this one came out, the first batch came out in mid-September. You know what I mean? And like I said, the schedule was supposed to be like the first batch of standards come out in the middle of September. Then the Ricks would have came out, at least the first batch of Ricks, because I think they're doing the second batch of Ricks too. I'm not really sure. The first batch of Ricks would have came out in October. But like I said, I read on Facebook through a couple posts that maybe the Rick Boys are being pushed back to November. Not really sure when exactly in November they're popping. I would assume maybe middle of November. As well as the second batch of standard gigantic Shins are coming, I think, in November. Maybe December, 1 to 2. Once again, I think X Plus wasn't really expecting to get the amount of pre-orders that they did, you know, with the gigantic. It's basically the same thing that happened with the 25 centimeter Shin Godzilla. When they brought forth that last year, they exceeded what they thought they were going to get for as pre-orders. So they had no choice but to make a second batch, because a lot of people were wanting to get their hands on this figures, you know what I mean? Especially that particular figure. They ran into the same situation with the gigantic Shin, you know, whatever. With the 25 centimeters, since they're smaller, maybe they're a little bit better, or at least more, it's more accessible, I guess, to make more of those figures, but with these, because they're so big, gigantic, obviously, it takes a little bit more time to get them together. So I can understand why the delays are there, you know, whatever. But of course, if you pre-ordered one, trust me, I know it hates to wait, you know. I know it hates to wait, but, excuse me, I know it's bothersome to wait. But trust me, if you pre-ordered one, if you got one locked in solid, trust me, you will be in hard heaven once this thing arrives on your doorstep. And this thing didn't come with EMS shipping because the box was so big, it had to be shipped through FedEx. But don't worry, those who are not familiar with FedEx, they have a great turnaround. You know, like I paid for this like on a Monday, and I got it like that same week on that Friday. So FedEx is really, really good when it comes to shipping. You know what I mean? So don't be worried about that. But yes, that's basically the backstory about this figure. Yes, I love it so much. I really, really do. I didn't expect it to love it as much as I did when I initially pre-ordered it. Of course, it's a gigantic series. You know, that's what I'm all about. I love the gigantic series. It's my favorite line from X Plus. A lot of figures from X Plus. So it was a no-brainer. I was going to get the gigantic Shin no matter what. Like I said, I'm not feeling the standard, so that's why I'm not feeling the red, that's why I got the standard. And now that I have it in hand, I love it a whole lot more. Between that and me watching more of the film, because the Blu-ray came out in August, and just watching more of the film, I actually love this figure even more. Where he ranks among my favorite gigantics, because I have them all, you know what I mean? At least a good majority of them. Where he ranks, I will save that towards the tail end of my review. So that's pretty much the backstory involved in this figure. The gigantic series, Shin Godzilla Standard, I love it. I really do love it. So let's get up close and personal with this guy. All right, let's go. Okay, folks, I'm back up close and personal with the X Plus Gigantic Series Standard Edition of Shin Godzilla, his fourth form. And as you can see, man, this is an awesome figure. It is an amazing figure. Obviously, you know what? Now that I think about it and now that I look at it, Hideaki Anno, and Shinji Higuchi, you know, the guys who were co-directors of Shin Godzilla, and X Plus were obviously on the same page, because Mr. Anno and Mr. Higuchi, with their intention of Shin Godzilla, they wanted to make the biggest, most terrifying, frightening version of Godzilla ever. And I think X Plus has followed that formula to a T, because this figure, especially when it comes to gigantic series, or might as well say just X Plus figures overall when it comes to their roster, this thing is the most frightening, it's the biggest, and the most imposing Godzilla figure, in my opinion, out there. You know what I mean? It's just an amazing figure. Now, you can see the detail on this thing is amazing. If you thought the detail on the 25cm Shin Godzilla was amazing, which it is, this one blows it out the water on so many different levels. You know what I mean? The paint job is awesome. Just the texture on his skin is really, really awesome as well. His dorsal plates, I love them. I love them how they are positioned on his body. The shapes of them is just an awesome sets of dorsal plates, you know, that serve as heat vents. Of course, if you watch the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I will talk about the film towards the tail end of this video, so spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen Shin Godzilla, I suggest you go watch it before you watch the rest of this video. Now I got that disclaimer out the way, but yes, this thing is just, oh my God. I mean, I'm having words to describe how wonderful this figure is. You know, his arms, just typical Shin Godzilla design, with his arms really, really bony, with his hands and claws curled upright. You know what I mean? Thick thighs, kind of like harking back to the Heisei version of Godzilla, in particular when it comes to the gigantic series, the gigantic burning Godzilla, which you'll see in size comparisons later on. His toes, his feet, oh my God. Toes are just grotesque looking, you know, with all the toenails and the bone just protruding out of his foot or whatever. Here's another thing. He doesn't really stand on his heels. His heels are up off the ground. But yet, don't be alarmed, because between his tail being bulky and his feet being solid on the ground, he won't have an issue of topping over like the 30cm Rodan. So he's a hefty guy, this figure is. So you won't have no issues with him, like I said, topping over or whatever. Now, when it comes to toppling over, this figure also came with a tail stand. because his tail is so big and so bulky. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Kyoto version of Shin Godzilla. Kyoto made I think a pre-painted kit of this version of Shin Godzilla, where his tail is really going more upwards towards the ceiling. You know what I mean? And that thing costs a lot of money too. So at least this figure was very affordable. I guess if you compare it by the Kyoto standards, it was very, very affordable. Like maybe 3 of these figures would equal to 1 of the Kyoto. So that's a good thing. But back to the stand. The stand is there to hold the tail up, because over time, you know, because here it is going into the fall and going into the cold winter months, the tail is going to be really hardened, but maybe next year when it heats up again, it may droop. So the tail stand is there just to hold it in place. You know what I mean? And also, let me try and swing this around if I can, because he is a big one. Let's put this out of the way. Right there. You see that? Now, I don't know if anybody else who got this figure already has issues with this, but mine doesn't necessarily lock in all the way through. You know what I mean? But the tail stand is there to lock it more into place. You know what I mean? So that's why I also use the tail stand. So eventually the vinyl will just lock into place here. That's the only issue that I have with this figure. I don't know if this is an issue that everybody will experience all across the board, but it's really a non-issue because the tail is locked in. You know, it's not like it's going to fall out when I pick it up. But that's the only, I guess, minor grievance that I have with it. But that's what the tail stand is there for. You know what I mean? Maybe you won't have that issue with yours, but that's the issue I have with mine. But like I said, it's pretty much a non-issue. But the detail is so amazing. Just an accurate likeness of the fourth form of Shin Godzilla. Now, when we first saw this figure was coming out, we heard reports that maybe it was stylized, maybe. But if you watch the film, there is like a certain scene in the film where Godzilla is twisting like this. More so in the film before he's attacked by the military at the end, or at least before he's inflicted serious harm on him, he mostly stays in the same pose or in the same position, especially like his upper torso. Now his tail is the thing that's always moving around. But he barely twists like this, except at the very end when they unleash that plan to bombard him with the unmanned bomb trains and try to immobilize him by toppling those buildings on top of him, so they can put that that blood chemical in his body. Once again, watch the film. If I'm talking stuff that's going over your head. So there are times where he does twist like this. You know, like I said, only when he's inflicted serious damage. But it is an actual likeness of the film. So this figure is not stylized at all, in my opinion. Because I watched Shin Godzilla religiously since I knew I was getting this figure. And there's a point in the film, like I said, towards the tail end maybe, that he does have this pose. So don't be alarmed like that. So if you're OCD, get that out your head. You know what I mean? This really is a perfect likeness of the fourth form of Shin Godzilla. You know what I mean? Let's go to his face. Oh my God. Hopefully it'll be in focus here. Hopefully. Okay. It's about as focused as it's going to get. But yes, this thing is, oh my God. This thing has just, he's just so many different things all in one setting. You know, he's monstrous, he's a beautiful vinyl figure, he's grotesque, he's disgusting looking, he's frightening, he's horrifying, he's intimidating, he's imposing, he's all these different things. You know what I mean? And X Plus has captured this perfectly in their sculpt of this figure. You know, the teeth, jagged, shark-like teeth, and his eyes, you know, kind of reminiscent of the 54, where he has that one pupil that's looking down upon you. You know what I mean? Once again, just an accurate description or likeness of the fourth form of Shin Godzilla. And in my opinion, I think this is the best Shin Godzilla figure out there. Maybe I'm biased because this is, you know, the X Plus Gigantic series, and I'm very biased towards the X Plus Gigantic series. But I'll just be biased because it's my video. You know what I mean? But yes, this thing is just amazing. I can talk hours and hours and hours about this, but I know we don't have that kind of time. But it basically speaks for itself. You know, from his skin texture, from his size, he clocks in at 19.5 or 19 1/4 inches tall. He's like maybe 3 feet long, and he's very photogenic. You know what I mean? You can shoot any angle from any direction, and it will be awesome of this figure. Where you look at him from the front like this, where you have like a upward shot like this, whether you do his dorsal plates, where you shoot from his tail, where you do an aerial shot like this, he's just amazing. He really is. So it basically speaks for yourself. So if you order one, where's the standard or the Rick Boy, you will not be disappointed. Yes, it's an investment, but trust me, once you have it in your hand, you will know and recognize fully that the investment was well worth it. Every penny of it. You know what I mean? All right, so let's go with the size comparisons, and we will do a Shin comparison, and I will give you my thoughts of Shin Godzilla. I won't go to a lot of detail about that, because I plan on doing a kaiju discussion of the film with my brother from another mother, John Ruffin, so I won't go into a lot of detail about it, but I'll just tell you just a little bit, because I've been watching the film a lot lately, like I said, and I've gained a newfound respect and appreciation for it, and I'll just touch on that on the tail end of my video. Alright, so let's go with the first size comparison. Okay folks, this is the first size comparison, and yes, along with the S Plus Gigantic Series Shin Godzilla, I have the S Plus Gigantic Series Bluefin Rick Boy edition of the GMK Godzilla. Yes, I just want to just give you a size comparison between the first Gigantic Series figure in the line and now with the latest one, you know what I mean? Now technically this one was the GMK is a different variant that came out last year, but the overall sculpt is based off the original the Gigantic GMK, you know what I mean? But technically this was like maybe what, because I think it was like the 5th or 6th technically release of a Gigantic Series figure, you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, let's go through stats involving the Shin Godzilla Gigantic. It is the 6th official Gigantic Series release. You know, the first was the original GMK. And I'm not talking about variants here, like this Bluefin Gigantic GMK or the Frozen Sugar Cake Gigantic 95. But basically there were 6 official releases of 6 different Godzilla designs for the Gigantic Series. First was GMK. Second was the original Gigantic 1995, Burning Godzilla or Desagoji. Third was the Gigantic 2000 Jujutsu Kai edition. The fourth was the most popular, ever popular, King Goji, Godzilla 1962. The 5th one was the Gigantic 54, and now number 6 is, of course, the Gigantic Series Shin Godzilla. And yes, these two look great together. If you have this figure, whether it's the Bluefin or the original Gigantic GMK, you will be in hog heaven. You know what I mean? This is a very, very nice, imposing, frightening image of 2 of the most frightening versions of Godzilla ever made. You know, GMK was frightening. Of course, Shin Godzilla is frightening. So I just wanted to put these 2 together. And why don't you pipe down in the comment section on which Godzilla you feel is the most intimidating or most frightening or most terrifying. You know what I mean? Of course, with GMK, you know, I have my issue with the film. I love the film, don't get me wrong, but I wish that they could have done a little bit more to, I guess, display Godzilla being more frightening. You know what I mean? But the overall look of Godzilla himself, the GMK I'm talking about, with just the blank eyes and no pupils and the fangs popping out. He looks really, really monstrous and just looks like he's about to ready to rip your head off. With Shin Godzilla, you know, he looks creepy. He looks grotesque. And once again, just frightening on another level. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's why I want to put these 2 together. Yes, 2 of the most frightening versions of Godzilla. And of course, they're 2 Gigantic Series figures from S Plus. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's it with the first size comparison. Let's do the next size comparison and we'll go from there. All right, let's go. Okay, folks, this is the next size comparison. Yes, we're getting bigger with the size comparison. Yes. Right here, I have the X Plus Gigantic Series Godzilla 1995. And yes, these 2 look great together. You know what I mean? Of course, with GMK, with him being slunched over, you know, he doesn't, he gives off a little bit less size than the Shin Godzilla, obviously. But yeah, this guy, he towers over the Gigantic GMK by like 5 or 6 inches. And yeah, finally a figure that can look the Gigantic 95 eye to eye. Because for the longest time, the Gigantic Series Godzilla 1995 has been the biggest, bulkiest X Plus figure that X Plus has ever done on their roster. I'm sorry, unfortunately, I gotta break the news to you, player. You know I love you, but you have been dethroned. For a while now, the Gigantic 95 has been the undisputed champion of being the biggest Godzilla figure or figure period in X Plus's roster. But I'm sorry, you have just been dethroned by the X Plus Gigantic series Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla probably is maybe a half an inch or a quarter of an inch taller than the 95. You can believe that. And his tail alone is just, that's, by it going into another zip code. yeah. So now you understand, size-wise, of why these two are the biggest or whatever, and how Shin Godzilla basically is bigger. He's not like super big in comparison to 95. Don't get me wrong, the 95 is still big. Don't get that twisted. But the 95 has surpassed it in terms of sheer mass and in his thighs, especially his tail and his height. So if you have these two figures together, or if you're thinking about putting these two together, if you already had the 95 and if you have pre-ordered the Shin, please make sure you have a lot of room. I don't suggest you put them on a shelf. I'm thinking about what kind of shelf is big enough to support these two. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're out there, but still, we don't have that much space to house these things anyway. So, in my opinion, I think that you should just leave these figures out in the open. Have them on an open table where their tails can grow, can be extended freely and stuff like that. But yeah, just another size comparison where these two look awesome together. The two biggest figures in X Plus roster, the X Plus Gigantic Series 95 Godzilla, and of course the X Plus Gigantic Series Shin Godzilla. Now, who can stop these two? Answer that question. Who can stop these two? And won't you pipe down in the comment section on which of these two you think is more frightening and more intimidating looking between the two? All right, I would love to hear your feedback about that. But until then, these two look awesome together. All right, so let's do one more size comparison, and then we'll do the Shin comparison, and we'll wrap the review up. All right, let's go. Okay, folks, this is the last size comparison between two Gigantic Series figures. And right now, it is the Gigantic Series 1954's turn to be sized up with this X Plus Gigantic Series Shin Godzilla. And these two are more appropriate between the gigantic size comparisons that I just did. Because Shin Godzilla, in design as well as a movie, is so very, very similar to the classic 1954 film. You know what I mean? And as you can see, there are certain similarities between the two, especially with the eyes, like I said, between both Godzillas, where the pupil is looking down, very frightening looking, very intimidating looking. Of course, Shin Godzilla takes that on another different level because of his jagged teeth, because of his skin being just exposed and just very flesh-like, you know what I mean? He looks more grotesque, versus the 54. But I just want to put these two together as, just to show a synergy between the two designs as well as the two films. And here's another thing. The 1954 Gigantic, I don't see it get talked about that much, especially amongst the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, online or whatever. I think that he doesn't get that much love and he doesn't get the much credit he deserves, you know what I mean? I would like to see more photos of him out there. I mean, I should take some more photos and more posts about him. But I don't really see him that much anymore, I mean, I think he's probably one of the least talked about Gigantics. 'Cause everybody loves, the 95, obviously. Everybody loves GMK. Everybody especially loves the 62. But the 54 doesn't get talked about that much, and I think that's a shame, because this really is a very, very great piece. Now, there are certain angles where it looks like a great Sakai piece, because this is a Sakai piece from X Plus, the 54. There are certain angles where it looks superb like this, but from the front angle, he doesn't look so superb. Maybe that has something to do with it, you know what I mean? But I don't know. But I think that it deserves a lot more love. And if you pre-ordered the Gigantic Shin Godzilla and you have the 54, you're going to love it when you put these two together, because I made a post like this on the X Plus Collectors Facebook group a week ago. And appropriately so. What you're seeing in front of you is the Alpha and Omega of the Godzilla series. You know what I mean? 62 years of awesomeness between these two. The first Godzilla and the last Godzilla. I'm not even going to count the Godzilla from Monster Planet. That creepy anime looking Godzilla that looks like a melted plant. I'm not even counting that one because for one, the movie's not out yet. And even if it were to come out, I don't like it. So I'm not going to put him into this equation. But for right now, like I said, the alpha and omega of the Godzilla series right here in front of you with the X Plus Gigantic series, Godzilla 1954 Jujutsu Kai, and of course the X Plus Gigantic series standard edition of Shin Godzilla. Alright, let's do one more comparison and we'll be out of here. Alright, let's go. Okay, folks, this is the last comparison. I'm sorry if I'm drowning the figure review in size comparison or comparison in general. I'm just trying to get as much information out there as I can so you can be well prepared once this guy arrives on your doorstep. And here is my collection of all the Shin Godzillas I have in my collection right now. Of course, along with the gigantic, I have the 25 centimeter standard Shin Godzilla, as well as the fourth form Death for Real version of Shin Godzilla, and I have my Godzilla Blu-ray, Shin Godzilla Blu-ray right there. And that's my setup. You know what I mean? That's my current setup here in my room, in my man cave. And I just want to give you a little comparison between all the fourth forms of Shin Godzilla X Plus has. I'm not counting, you know, the recently released Death for Real fourth form with its mouth wide open and other things, stuff like that. But this one just give you a different perspective between the three different versions of the fourth form of Shin Godzilla as far as X Plus is concerned. And they look really awesome together, you know what I mean? If you would have asked me, cause I think a friend of mine, Kenton Eatonfield, on the X Plus Collectors Facebook group asked me, because I posted a picture of this setup online on the Facebook group, and he asked me which one of the three is my favorite. And obviously, the way I've been glossing and praising the gigantic, obviously the gigantic's my favorite. But I don't sell the Death for Real and the 25 centimeter short. You know what I mean? Originally, I wasn't going to get the Death for Real. But a good friend of mine, Jeffrey Mulek, you know, he bought one at G-Fest and said, hey, I have an extra one. Would you mind taking a look at it? Maybe you'll like it. He said, I know you like more the more accurate, movie accurate figures, but why don't you check it out? Because that's something normally that I wouldn't really go for. I'm not really going to go for the other Death for Real figures. But I'm like, you know what? He looks creepy. He has a creepy charm about him that I would like. You know what? I would love to add him to my collection. You know what I mean? So yes, I have a great fondness of that Death for Real one. So thank you, Jeff. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for changing my mind. But yes, between the Death for Real 25 and the gigantic, just a great setup. You know, the fourth form of this just hellacious monstrosity known as the fourth form of Shin Godzilla. You know what I mean? Yes. It's awesome. It really is awesome. Like I said, if you thought the detail on the 25 centimeter Shin Godzilla was amazing, woo! The gigantic blows it out the water. But also at the same time, don't sell the 25 centimeter Shin Godzilla as well as the Death for Real fourth form of Shin Godzilla short too. These are all great figures in their own respective way. You know what I mean? Alright, so let's just wrap this review up with my thoughts of Shin Godzilla. Once again, I won't go into a lot of detail because I'm planning a kaiju discussion with John Ruffin about it. So I'll be brief in my commentary here. And so let's talk about Shin Godzilla. Alright, let's go. Okay, folks, I'm back, and let's talk about Shin Godzilla briefly in conjunction with the X Plus Gigantic series review of Shin Godzilla, his fourth form. And like I said, I'll be brief in my commentary here, but I want to talk about the film just a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, the Blu-ray came out, I think the first day or the first week in August. And let me just give you a little brief history about the film as far as I'm concerned. When it came out in theaters October of last year, I only saw the film once. You know what I mean? And we all know, if you watch the film is very heavy in dialogue and very heavy in story. It's not your typical Godzilla film. So when I watched it for the first time, that one and only time, it was so much for me to digest as far as the film is concerned. Now, since I watched the Blu-ray, and I watched the Blu-ray over and over and over again, and there's some parts I still have not really understood, but I find myself enjoying it more and more while I watch it. You know what I mean? I think the problem with watching it the first time, if you didn't get a chance to see it the second time or a third time, I think maybe they should have benefited I think a lot of folks, at least Americans, when they brought it over here to the States in October, I think it would have been better served to have it not really subtitled, but have it English dubbed, because by it being subtitled, you know, you're reading a movie that's heavy in dialogue, and not only do you have to read what the characters are saying, sometimes they'll plaster the title of the person that's talking, locations, and they'll plaster it all over the screen where you're reading so many different things, and sometimes you may miss a few things as far as like the story. And I think that maybe that was an issue. I think maybe that had something to do with a lot of folks not really liking the film, you know. If you don't like the film because you don't like the film, that's fine. But I think a lot of folks should really give this film a second chance. I've been saying that for the longest now. Now, is it in my top 10 of favorite Godzilla films? No. But I appreciate for what it has done and what it has brought to the table as far as like cinematic pleasure, especially breathing new life into Godzilla, you know what I mean? Which is something that we Godzilla fans have been wanting for a long time. Nothing against Godzilla 2014, which did breathe new life into the character, but the film, although it was good, kind of followed the same formula. You know, Godzilla comes back, he's like a pseudo good guy, he fights two evil monsters that want to destroy the planet. We've seen that before in past Godzilla films, but with Shin Godzilla, it's a film that walks that fine line of being radically different, but yet very traditional. You know what I mean? And that's why I think that's what gives the film its charm, as well as its place as a concrete Godzilla film, and probably one of the most important entries in the Godzilla film series. I've heard a lot of folks say that this film is so drastically different and radically different that it doesn't belong. It doesn't feel like a Godzilla film, which I strongly disagree. Because it's not what we expect, just because it's not what we have come to know and love about Godzilla for all these different many years, doesn't mean that the film is not any good. I think the film is really good. It's brilliantly done, and I think it was needed. You know, especially for a reboot. Because the purpose of a reboot is not only acknowledge the past films or make certain homages to past films, but to go into a different direction that not only caters to old fans and also use old school techniques which made the old films work and made them so popular, but also go into a different direction and walk that fine line where you combine the two to make a great film. And I think Shin Godzilla does that perfectly. You know what I mean? I also think that people should really just give this film a second chance. I know I mentioned that before, but this really is. It's really is a captivating film. You know, it's one of those films that you have to sit down from beginning to end. As a matter of fact, when I watch the film now, it's like I don't even speed past the story, you know, the human story, because the human story is really good. There are times where I actually forget the Godzilla's in the film. That's how good the story is when you focus on these people in the government, people in power, especially the rag team, or the misfits that come together to try to unravel the mystery behind Godzilla. Why did it appear? Where did it go? Will it come back? Its ties to a certain foreign superpower, and how to deal with it if and when he does return. And it's a really captivating story. It really is. And I also believe that when you watch this film, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I always try to say, or at least when I hear people say that this film doesn't belong, I think each Godzilla film serves a purpose. Whether you like some of the films, whether you hate some of the films, I think every film has some kind of purpose. You know, whether it's to send a message, whether it's just to merely entertain and just make us all feel good. I think every film has a purpose, and I think every film outshines, or at least is good at something that the other films are not. Like King Kong versus Godzilla, like, it's best known for the monster fight. You know, it's a very awesome monster fight, as well as Godzilla vs. Gigan, another great monster fight between four monsters. I think the film that has the best alien invasion storyline is Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. That's where that film shines. I think the film that involves the best version of Mechagodzilla is 1974 or 1975. I think the most grounded, maybe more realistic Godzilla film is probably 1984. Love that film. I think the most emotional one is Godzilla vs. Destroyer. You know, I think one that combines all those elements is GMK. But I think this film, Shin Godzilla, earns the moniker of being the most realistic Godzilla film ever. I also think that's a bold statement to make. You know what I mean? But I really do believe this is probably the most realistic Godzilla film ever. You know what I mean? Because even though it has certain nods to the original, certain nods to the past films, as far as like music that's used in the film, old roars, sound effects, stuff like that. This film doesn't jump off of anything, and I think that was something that was needed to give this film a lot more weight, kind of like the original 1954. Okay, ever since that film, there's been no film that comes as close of being gritty and realistic as that film. But also at the same time, I can't really identify with the 1954 film. I love the film. I understand the story. It's an iconic, legendary story. But I wasn't alive or around during that time, back in the World War II days. So I can't really understand understand what those people were going through. But with this film being modernized in the modern era, and I read and heard about the Fukushima disaster and the tsunami earthquake of 3/11, you know what I mean, which those events inspired this version of Godzilla, and I was alive during that time, obviously. And now they show in the film where the monster comes ashore. You have people on their smartphones, on the internet, trying to figure out what's going on. I can identify with that because that's what we are living in for a society now. So I think with that being said, it's like I said, the most realistic Godzilla film ever. The gritty realism of Godzilla coming ashore, destroying stuff. The destruction sequences are probably the best in any Godzilla film. You know what I mean? And I also appreciate the fact that, that, like I said earlier, that it focuses on the government's position on how they want to deal with the situation. Although their top priority is to protect the people and protect the citizens, like I said, they also make mistakes along the way, which is understandable, because a situation like this that they come across in the film was unprecedented. They have never dealt with a situation like this before. So you have to understand that mistakes are going to happen, even though lives are lost as a unfortunate byproduct of that. But I think this film shines, like I said, as being very, very realistic, and it shows everything from a government's perspective. I know some folks don't appreciate that. I know some folks don't like that. But for me, I do. Like I mentioned, it's not going to be my top 10 of favorite Godzilla films, but I do appreciate and I do acknowledge and I do understand where the film is coming from. And I think it was needed. It was a really a great risk for Mr. Anno and Mr. Higuchi to present this film. Even at the risk of alienating hardcore Godzilla fans, because I've seen this film get real divided amongst us Godzilla fans. Like I said, some Godzilla fans love it to death, some people hate it. But at the same time, I think that it was needed to breathe more character into breathe more life into the character, and hopefully it will spawn more films to come. Because the interest and buzz is still out there, not only for this film, for Godzilla in general. And I think this film has a great amount deserves a great amount of credit of making that happen. You know what I mean? So hopefully I can enlighten you to give Shin Godzilla another chance. If not, then that's fine. But still, try to give it a second watch. Try to understand what's going on. Try just to be more entrenched into the story, and I guarantee you will enjoy it. If you want to enjoy it, I guarantee you that you will respect the film as I do. You know what I mean? So that pretty much concludes my review of the X Plus Gigantic Series 4th form of Shin Godzilla Standard Edition from the cool Godzilla film, the latest Godzilla film that got a lot of us Godzilla fans talking, Shin Godzilla, or as known here in the United States, Godzilla Resurgence. If you have any questions, holler me down in the comment section, or hit me up on Facebook, Vera Mark Calloway. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, I love this figure. I really, really, really do. Wow, it's just such an awesome representation of the 4th form of Shin Godzilla. And I mentioned it earlier, where do I rank these Gigantic Series figures as far as how I like them, And my past list was, the first was 95, second was GMK, first 95, second King Goji, third GMK, fourth the 54, and 5 was the G2000. Now that I have the Shin Godzilla here is my list from my least favorite to my most favorite. Number 6, Godzilla 2000. Number 5, Godzilla 1954. Number 4, Shin Godzilla. Yes, Shin Godzilla comes in number 4. Number 3, GMK. Number 2, King Goji. Number 1, 1995 Godzilla. Yes, 1995 Godzilla. Yes, you're still my favorite. You know what I mean? But still, I don't sell this figure short, and you shouldn't either. Like I said, you will be hog heaven if you pre-ordered one. Once he arrives on your doorstep, you will love this figure. Yes, 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 you will. So let me give a huge shout out to a few people. First and foremost, let me give a huge shout out and thank you to my beautiful wife, Sandra. I love you, babe. Thank you so much for helping me get this figure as a birthday gift a few weeks ago. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I also want to thank Jeremy Souls, Axum Michael, John Ruffin, and Greg Betters for the use of your picks during the course of my video. Thank you for contributing your picks of this awesome figure. I really do appreciate it. And before we actually go into the slideshow, my friend, my brother from another mother, Jeremy Souls, will give a small little mini review of the gigantic series Shin Godzilla, because he got one and he made a little mini review, so I will include that before the slideshow comes in a few minutes. You know what I mean? Now, what is next for the X Plus gigantic series? I'm not talking about Dragon Ball Z. I'm not into that. If you are, good for you. But I'm not into that. I'm talking about Tokusatsu. Well, there's two that I know that are coming. One I know for certain, and the other one I'm not too certain about, but I do know it's coming. The first and foremost, we got the news yesterday, October 27th, 2017. Yes, the next Ultra Warrior is coming to the gigantic series. Yes, my favorite Ultra Warrior, Ultra 7. Yes, Ultra 7 is on his way to the gigantic series. He should be dropping in 2018. I love Ultra 7. He's my favorite Ultra Warrior. Nothing against Ultraman. I have a gigantic Ultraman, but Ultra 7 is my guy. I can't wait to get that. And yes, if you know me and you know what my favorite version of Godzilla is, of course, the 1964 Godzilla is coming to the gigantic series. Yes, he is. Yes, I don't know when he's coming, but I know he's coming at some point. So yes, those two are the next gigantic series figures on X Plus's plate right now. Like I said, Ultra 7 is dropping in January of 2018. The 64 is coming at some point. I don't know when. I would assume maybe midsummer, but I know he's coming sometime next year, unless X Plus drops a bombshell on between now and then, which they have been known to do, whatever. That's the next version of Godzilla that's coming to the gigantic series. My favorite, Godzilla 1964. I can't wait. Yes, 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 yes. But until then, yes, I love this figure. Please get your hands on it if you can find it for a good price. That's debatable, but if you can find one for a good price, and if you love Shin Godzilla, the design as well as the film that much, you will not be disappointed with this figure, whether it's the Red Bull or the standard. The X Plus Gigantic Series figure of Shin Godzilla, his fourth form. Alright, once again, thank you for watching Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. More reviews are coming. I got the 1975 Godzilla 3rd centimeter coming. I got Gamera 1999 3rd centimeter coming. Yes, a lot of stuff is on its way, so please stay tuned. You know what I mean? I'm sorry I've been gone for a minute, but I had a lot going on, but I'm back in full force, ready to get these reviews out to you, and let's just sit back and have a good time. Alright, so I thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all again on the next figure and move review. Alright? Y'all take it easy.
Hi, Jeremy Souls here from Summit Kaiju, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the X Plus Gigantic Series Shin Godzilla. To date, I believe this is the best Gigantic Series that has been released. It really is my favorite. It's been a lot of fun taking photos with. I love the amount of realistic detail that they matched up to the movie. The coloring on it seems pretty good, and really this is a figure that I think is going to be beloved by many collectors.